다음으로 오전 세션의 마지막 팀입니다. 싸우전드 팀의 북극해 환경 보존을 위한 블랙 카본의 위험성 환규와 규제 실행 공고라는 제목으로 발표가 있겠습니다. 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming here today. This is 싸우전드, and I sincerely hope all of you will find our presentation interesting. The title of our presentation is Proposals for Effective Black Carbon Regulations to Save the Arctic. In our presentation, first, we are going to talk about the connection between black carbon and IMO. And secondly, we will consider how to deal with the black carbon. And finally, we would like to finish off by making our proposals. Questions will be welcomed after the presentation. Last October, IMO took a massive step for saving the Arctic environment. According to the site, IMO says for ships to comply with low sulfur oil requirements until 2020. It intends to phase out of heavy fuel oil, now called HFO, from the Arctic waters. You might think what the problem with HFO is, and why do they try to phase out of HFO? First, you need to know about the black carbon. Black carbon is strongly light-absorbing material created through incomplete combustion of carbon-based fuels, such as HFO. That means HFO produces the black carbon. This material impacts the global climate, human health, and environment. Particularly, the Arctic is vulnerable to the effects of black carbon. Then why the Arctic is vulnerable to the effects of black carbon? As black carbon deposits on the snow and ice, and it hinders the reflection of the sunlight. It absorbs the heat and increases the rate of snow and ice melt. This mechanism accelerates the Arctic warming. In brief, black carbon is a significant contributor to Arctic warming. We are changing. What is the impact of the Arctic warming? The Arctic is warming faster than the rest of the world, and some of the figures even say that Arctic temperature is rising twice faster. If you look at the pictures on the slides, you can notice how much the sea ice decreased from 1979 to 2003. As this phase went continuously, the lowest Arctic sea ice extent was recorded in 2012. Also, 80 years later from now, the sea level is expected to rise more than 1 meter. And air temperature already increased about 5 degrees Celsius over the last 100 years. Moreover, the Arctic summer sea ice is expected to disappear completely in 2080. That's why we need to regulate the black carbon to stop the Arctic warming. And where does black carbon come from in the Arctic? One of the primary sources of black carbon emissions is shipping. According to my research, they predicted the emission of black carbon from shipping potentially has about 50% among the whole BC emissions in the Arctic. As you know, HFO is a main fuel of vessel. When HFO burns to activate the engine, it generates a lot of black carbon. Therefore, shipping vessels shall be under regulation by IMO. However, despite of the necessity to emission of black carbon, In MARPOL, regulations are insufficient. And even in polar code for vessels operating in polar waters, there is no regulation of black carbon. It is just encouraged not to use or carry HFO in the Arctic. For these reasons, next presenter will consider how to reduce the emission of black carbon.
Thanks. Okay. There's a famous quote by Peter Drucker, a well-known business measurement expert: if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. If we want to solve the problems about black carbon, we first have to measure it precisely. This page on the left side of this slide is part of a document titled Black Carbon Emissions from Shipping in Ice Conditions in the Arctic, submitted by Russia. And there's one sentence saying, black carbon emissions in the above assessments vary between 1,000 and 3,000 tons per year. What does it mean? It means, on the exact same case, there could be a huge difference on the figures of black carbon. This is because there are multiple ways to measure black carbon, and it is very difficult to intercompare the results that are obtained with different instruments, measures. In short, uncertainty may confound our understanding of black carbon and its impacts on the climate. Therefore, we suggest, due to IMO, that an integrated black carbon measurement is needed. Next subject we have to talk about is, obviously, fuel itself, which generates black carbon. Currently, most of the vessels that are actually operating in the oceans use HFO, heavy fuel oil. The reason why they use this is very simple. It's cheaper. But this HFO causes an extraordinarily large amount of black carbon emissions, and it is used almost exclusively in the shipping industry. Why is that? The reason is also very simple. Restrictions on HFO are not restricted. Of course, a shift from HFO, heavy fuel oil, to cleaner oil, which is low sulfur distillate, is being made. According to a review on black carbon issued by Dr. Leck and Corbett, switching fuel will result in black carbon reductions about 30 to 80%. However, like I said, restrictions on HFO are not strong enough. Therefore, we suggest to the IMO that the ban on the use of HFO should be enforced by law as soon as possible. Now, you might think that the use of HFO is the only cause of black carbon emission. It is not. There's also another factor called slow steaming. Slow steaming means intentionally reducing engine loads, which leads to a reduction from full speed to lower speed. Shipping companies around the world have pursued this method in order to make fuel savings so that they can save their money. According to multiple scientists in a report by Musk, 10% decrease in speed of a vessel leads to 20% reduction of fuel consumption. On the other hand, it means if engine load is reduced 90%, it leads to 90% increase in black carbon emissions. Let's look at a more simple graph about this phenomenon. When engine load remains almost constant, like from 80 to 100% of its full capacity, black carbon emissions stays almost constant. However, if engine load decreases even more below than 80% of its full capacity, you can see there's a rapid increase in black carbon emissions. In that sense, there should be proper adjustments on using slow steaming. And those are derating and retuning. Both are basically the same, so I'll just say derating. Derating means operating an engine at less than its rated maximum capability in order to prolong its life expectancy. This method provides ideal combustion at all loads so that it can counteract the significant increase in black carbon emissions, of course caused by slow steaming. In case for vessel which is impossible to use rating. Alternative device called slide valves can be an option, and slide valves are easy to install and operate, and of course reduces a lot of black carbon emissions. Therefore, we suggest to the IMO that the technologies mentioned above for reducing black carbon emissions at low engine loads shall be on board. However, switching fuel or using grating is not enough. Low sulfur distillates is definitely cleaner, but it is anyways just fossil fuel and still makes some black carbon emission. According to IMO report on black carbon control measures, 3 possible black carbon abatement technologies are considered the most cost-effective and feasible. The first one is diesel particulate filter, DPF. DPF is, although rather new technology on the marine sector, it has been proven that it is quite effective on reduction of particulate matter and black carbon as well. Second is scrubber. Scrubber is a device that uses seawater or fresh water to wipe out all the pollutants coming out from an engine. Third, burning fuel immersion, WIFE. WIFE is a technology adding water continuously to the fuel supply process, which luckily leads to a reduction of black carbon emission. The exact percentage of reduction of each technology is, for WIFE, is 56%, for DPF, 20%, for scrubbers, 65%. Now that's a huge amount of reduction. The numbers I just gave to you are calculated as the average of the lowest possible and the highest possible. Keep in mind that, please. Anyways, except for switching to liquefied natural gas, LNG, no other options make better outcomes than these 3. For last, let's look at the graph shown and compare the cost effectiveness of the options. Horizontal axis is investment cost of the options. Vertical axis is additional operating expenditure per year. Now then, what is the best option? What do you think? What is the best option? It would be the most cost effective if that option is on the left and bottom side of the graph. However, sadly, you can easily see that there is no single strong technology. What I mean by strong here is, of course, cost effective. This, indeed, makes the choice is on the operational pattern of vessel, or its vessel type, or just easily saying it is up to operators. Therefore, we suggest to the IMO that at least one of the technologies mentioned above should be highly recommended. That was it for me, and the next presenter will continue with summarizing our proposals and suggesting the final amendments. Thank you.
So now, we would like to make several proposals to IMO to save the Arctic environment. The very first one is ban on the use of HFO. We all welcome the decisions that IMO made at MEPC 70's meeting to cut sulfur content by 2020. And this will reduce a huge amount of HFO used by Arctic shipping. However, this plan will not eliminate HFO completely. For this reason, we impose the ban on the use of HFO in Arctic area. Second, we suggest IMO set a mandatory regulations on BC emissions. As there is no valid regulation on black carbon emissions, black carbon emissions are currently not regulated in Arctic area. Third, we also suggest IMO recommend applying BC abatement technologies so that ships can reduce black carbon even more. Finally, we strongly request IMO set a limit on engine load. Of course, we fully understand that ships sometimes need to change their speed due to ice conditions in Arctic area. However, if there's no limit on engine load, ships can decrease their speed to save their own fuels, and this will result in the increase of black carbon emissions. From now on, we are going to show you how we amended MAPOR in detail. This is the amended MAPOR that we made. Under the MAPOR Annex 1, in Antarctic, the use and carriage of HFOs are strictly banned. Likewise, we added a new chapter saying that in Arctic, the use of HFOs shall be banned. Also, in order to eliminate HFO completely from the Arctic, we call for a discussion about Arctic HFO ban at NPC 71, which takes place in 2017. Next, we added some new regulation on MAPOR Annex 6 as well. First, we added an additional article about black carbon to draw the attention. Second, as we thought it is almost impossible to make black carbon disappear immediately in the Arctic, we suggest IMO set a deadline and decide how much black carbon emissions shall be reduced. For example, black carbon emissions shall be reduced to 50% of current emissions by 2020. And if it is not fulfilled, the penalty may be given. Also, set a lower limit on engine load so that ships cannot operate at very low loads deliberately. Furthermore, we suggest IMO consider designating black carbon control emission areas. If these areas are established, we can control and minimize black carbon emissions more easily and effectively. Of course, the Arctic areas shall be included in these areas. Also, as the black carbon is not only generated from the Arctic, but also from other regions of the world, we can extend these controlled areas gradually. And this is the most crucial thing. As we mentioned before, there's no appropriate BC measurement so far. For this reason, all the BC measured values are different, and it is difficult to regulate BC emissions in the Arctic areas. Therefore, before all the regulation we suggested are coming to the action, setting an integrated BC measurement should be preceded. Also, as soon as the measurement is set, we need to make an absolute standard on BC emissions so that ships cannot exceed the standard. In addition, we recommend applying BC abatement technologies such as life or scrubber. According to several studies about slow steaming, BC emissions increase if engine load goes below 80%. Also, if engine load is very low, like 25%, BC emissions rise dramatically. For these reasons, we recommend IMO set two lower limits. For example, 25% in plank A and 80% in plank B. And if engine load goes below 25%, which is A, using technologies such as retuning or slide valve shall be mandatory. And if engine load goes between 25% and 80%, using technologies will be recommendatory. And we think this is a feasible solution with regard to engine load in Arctic areas. Recently, IMO took a massive step to save the Arctic environment. However, it is still far slower than the rate at which snow and ice melt. What happens in the Arctic does not only stay in the Arctic, and it seems that Arctic doesn't wait for us anymore. Therefore, we ask for the urgent and prompt actions to save not only the Arctic, but also the entire Earth. And here are our references. And thank you so much for giving us such a great opportunity to have presentation today. We are 1000 Sunny. We are 1000 Sunny, and we would like to welcome any of your questions now.
이전 세션 마지막으로 질문 시간 갖도록 하겠습니다.
Okay, now invite students. Do any of students have questions to Carl and Tony? No? So you have, okay, linchpin, please.
Thank you for your very inspirational speech. We are Team Linchpin, and our question is that, according to our research, the team mentioned that there's no banning policy for HFO in the International Maritime Organization's conventions. However, according to our research, there has been several efforts by the international efforts in a current manner to diversify the use of oils away from the HFO, and actually gain results by requiring the North American continent countries to adopt the cleaner oils and other use of oils other than the HFO. So according to our research, there has been a lot of efforts. There has been already made by the international maritime organizations. And although it is good that the Team Thousand Sunny has provided several proposals and very inspirational technology amendments, wouldn't it be quite difficult to change the policies that have been already made by International Maritime Organization and adopt the technologies that have been proposed by the Team Thousand Sunny?
Excuse me, could you give us a second, please?
Sure.
Thank you for the question. First, we understand the concerns of yours, and it is quite aggressive. It can feel you can feel quite aggressive. Feel quite aggressive about our proposals because our proposals are rather a little bit radical, right? So your question is that there is like regulations or proper effort to regulate like to heavy fuel oil, right?
Quite similar, but to rephrase our question, there has been several efforts that have been already made by the international maritime organizations, and
could you name that, please? Like, could you name the specific regulation? If impossible, I think as far as we know, like there has been talks and discussions on the regulation of black carbon or heavy fuel oil, and also in the MEPC 70 session, which ended like a week ago, there was also like a discussion on phasing out the heavy fuel oil, but there's no mandatory or enforced comments about that regulation. So we are adding a little bit mandatory and specific proposals to that efforts. That's all. And of course we're not fully informed about the detailed informations, but I think we did the best to propose the mandatory and proper adjustments. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you. I would have very similar questions in mind during your presentation. I mean, you are proposing this all operational methodologies at the same time, including the banning of heavy fuel oil. And also proposing those 3 abatement methodologies, technologies. So what is the use of these 3 abatement methodologies in case you're proposing this banning of heavy fuel oil?
I see what you did there. The research that we showed you, Do you remember the black carbon reduction of each option? The graph, and how much percent it reduced? It's based on it's based on the experiments on low sulfur distillates. It's not heavy fuel oil. So like I said, like I emphasized before, even when you use low sulfur distillate, which is cleaner, but it's not. Low sulfur distillate is cleaner, but it's not clean. So low sulfur distillate, even if we use and implement a full usage of low sulfur distillate and none of heavy fuel oil, there still could be a possibility to reduce further black carbon reduction, as you all saw. And the heavy fuel oil, the ban of the heavy fuel oil is just the beginning. And we also understand our proposals seems a little bit radical, but we just emphasize the urgency of the climate. And that was it. Thank you.
I would say your proposal is not radical but ambitious. Any other further questions from the judges?
There is a question from the student.
Okay.
Yes.
The campus, please.
Thank you for a wonderful speech.
Thank you.
As far as we know, it's clarified in Marvel Annex 6 Regulation number 14 that all ships operating in all areas the sulfur content of all ships operating in all areas should be reduced to 0.5% by 2020. So I was being skeptical about the validity of your proposal that it should be banned right now. Do you have any explanations for this?
I didn't say it like right now, as soon as possible, to be specific. So your question is, you are questioning the feasibility or possibility of our proposals, right?
No, it's already clarified in the Marple Annex 6 Regulation number 14 that it should be banned, it should be limited. So it's gonna have its effect in 2020 already. So I'm skeptical about, the proposal that you made is not a new proposal.
As far as I know, use of HFOs in Arctic area is not banned yet. It hasn't been yet. It's just it's encouraged not to use HFO. That's what we know, and we wanted to make that regulation mandatory. That's why we suggest imposing ban on the use of HFO in Arctic areas.
And as far as we know, there are no specific mention on like the ban or just like mandation on specific dates or specific method. It's not mentioned on Marvel Annex or protocols or even in discussions which hold in like a week ago in NEPC 70s.
If you look into Marple Annex 6 Regulation number 14, it's about sulfur oxides and particulate matter, and there are general requirements that any fuel oil used on all board ships should not exceed the 0.5% by 2020 January 1st. So it's not, the effect of it is not done right now. It's not, the regulation is not applied right now, but it will be applied in 2020.
Who knows? This is rather out of the point. Yesterday, like Donald Trump has been elected as the new American president, and he's suggesting that we don't care about any climate. We don't care about any climate issues. We're just pushing through our for interest in these. And if there's no specific mandatory regulation is mentioned specifically, we cannot, be sure that the ban of the HFO, even phasing out, will be possible, like as by 2020.
If I add a few more sentences, you just said that IMO tried to lower sulfur content 0.5%. Is it right? But lowering sulfur content doesn't mean that the ban on the use of HFO, in my sense. So that's why we imposed the ban on the use of HFO.
I think time is already out. But I will give the Dr. Park to explain that point very briefly.
Yes, the sulfur content 0.5%. The 10 days ago, the IMO was adopted, and so it's different to the view is before already to these presentations the earlier made it, and so is according to the NPC 7 to 10 days ago. The result is the all ships have to use to the 0.5% sulfur, and so including to the article, the area also. The HFO, it is impossible to satisfy to 0.5% sulfur. That is why for ban on the HFO. However, you can use the HFO with installs another scrubber. Yeah, that is why the clarification.
Okay,
And thank you for the comments. I really appreciate it.
okay.
It helped.
Okay, I think we are ready now to go for lunch.
Thank you, George. 다시 한번 싸우전드 선한테 박수 부탁드립니다.